Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by the amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee, who have been with us for the last several years. So thank you, Folgers. We couldn't do it without you, nor would we want to. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for the contribution of his music, his voice, and his time for the intro you just heard. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind all of our logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the horror and Halloween genre, but does great commission pieces of any sort. So tonight welcomes back my dear friend, Nathaniel Gillis. And we're going to take a bit of a deep dive discussion on Project December, communicating with the dead. As he puts it, the Philip experiment on steroids. I love it. Probably the best way to describe that. But also, just to be clear, it's people, have to be aware that with AI, you can go in and program this stuff. You can create yourself characters. If you recall, we did have a guest on a few weeks back, and this is what he did. And he had a being with him who not only infiltrated his space again via this chat he created, this AI companion, it accelerated the program to a point where it could not technically be accelerated into, which is fascinating. So we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff, AI related. Put your seatbelts on. Nathaniel, back from hiatus and spending the next couple of hours with us. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. It's glad to be back with you, and I'm excited to discuss the research with you. And we'll do AI. We'll do whatever you want to do. So,
you know what? You know me. I get a bee in my bonnet when something gets on me, and I'm just like, I gotta talk about this because
hey, that works.
Yeah, because it's definitely a thing, as per, like I said, communicating with this guest that I had who had this incredible story, and then digging into different aspects of it, I found that, there's now like grief bots for people who can go in and communicate, or, I don't know if they act as grief counselors. I don't know if it's much like Project December, which you will talk about, where you can create your loved one to come back. Like, say, where do you want to start? Because you know me, I'm all over this stuff right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just like,
well, the thing is with the phenomenon is that it will inhabit archetypes and images. What's up, Caleb? That's my brother from another mother. Hello, brother.
He's first one in chat. Champion, Caleb.
Information fix. I love him and his family. They're amazing. But yeah. The phenomenon, again, has the ability to latch on to images of our consciousness and our mind, where when we're interfacing with it, it will almost go through the Rolodex of images in our mind, and it can actually take that, place that on its face, and next thing you know, that's what we think we're dealing with. And we've seen that often in incubi cases, and not just that in ufology. like Dr. Gary Nolan has had a case in France where a boy was witnessing a UAP hovering over his car. He's looking through the sunroof at this thing, a craft. Well, the mother takes a picture of it.
Yeah.
And what it looked like on the phone was completely different than what it looked like to the boy. Something different. Something else was there. When they were projecting a reality. Hello, Patsy. Projecting a replica of reality upon that man, or that little boy, rather. And so what we're looking at here is that the phenomenon likes to do that. It likes to incarnate as archetypes and inhabit them. And in some cases, and I've had experience for cases like this, where the phenomenon will, or the entity will masquerade as a cartoon character. And to the little girl doesn't believe in the cartoon anymore. So she realizes this is not it's not a cartoon at all. It's something else that's wanting to be perceived as a cartoon. And more than that, when that entity had no other archetype to inhabit. This is fascinating. It reached out into the ether and it's trying to download a new program. It could not do it. And so the phenomenon just completely ceased. The phenomenon just left. My point, though, is that we often become co-creators of the archetypes it manifests as. And this is the problem we're having, right? Is it me or is it them? And so that's where we kind of start out tonight, if we can, with the Philip experiment, having that foreknowledge as, I guess, a foundational understanding. The Philip experiment, again, was something designed to kind of bait the phenomenon into manifesting.
Yeah.
So,
that's
for those who aren't familiar, because I know you and I are, Michelle.
Yeah.
It's good stuff, right?
You just go crazy, Nathaniel.
Yeah. So, Philip experiment consisted of a bunch of parapsychologists who created a fictitious ghost. A ghost named Philip, hence the Philip experiment. And they fictionalized, fabricated an entire life story for this man named Philip. It was all a fallacy. None of it happened. And then they hired a psychic medium without telling her exactly what happened. They did not disclose this to her. So, okay, we want you to channel somebody. Okay, who am I channeling? Just anyone. Pick one. Pick something. So she's channeling and she's reaching for an entity to channel through her. And suddenly, here it happens. I'm here. The whole circle's astounded. The parapsychologists are looking at each other, winking and smirking. Who are you? And the entity said, my name is Philip. They said, okay, what's your life story? And so it literally began to regurgitate everything they wrote about him. They realized, yeah, this is not real. Like, this entity isn't real. The problem is, and we're going to get into AI here in a little bit and kind of solidify this foundation. The problem is that they were actually dealing with something real. Because out of nowhere, the entity within looks at a girl at the table and says, you totaled your car yesterday on the way to work, didn't you? And if you will, parapsychologists are going, I didn't write that. Right? Who did that?
Yeah.
Did you add that? I didn't write it. Where's he getting this from? And so what happened was, again, it's not exactly a thought form. It's the entity forming the thought that became a thought form. So now they're interfacing with an entity that said, thank you for the archetype. I'm here now. And I want you to know that I have transcended the program. Something real is present with us, and you have no power over me. But call me Philip. So, yes, so what we're dealing with respect to the phenomenon is that, yes, it inhabits images. It is not the image. It inhabits them. And I've even had cases like this where balls of light have hovered over a sleeping experiencer where she's been an abductee forever, and the light phenomenon manifests above her head and it descends down upon her and dissipates like a cloud. She wakes up thinking that she was taken by aliens, but she's covered from head to toe with sigils. So it manifested as something that it wasn't. The sigils were part of a ritual being performed on that abductee, on that experiencer. But she thinks alien, looked like an alien gray. So what these appear to be, again, are archetypes. And we've seen the same phenomenology in the Scole experiment, where they're doing right there. I think they had over 500 hours trying to contact NHI. And it took them a long time, Michelle, to create a room. Now, for those who don't know what that means, when they were doing these experiments and seances, sometimes it didn't work. So you would have to plug or take one person out, plug another one in, you know what I mean, to get the ratio right to where the phenomenon would manifest. What happened, though, is that it started like going through various archetypes as if they're programs, not real entities, just programs designed to get them to interface with the phenomenon until the phenomenon could, again, anchor itself in that room. So first off, we have the guide archetype. And so that's what they're doing. They're going through the guide thing. They're like, okay, we're here to contact guides. So the phenomenon said, well, sure, I'll be a guide. Of course. Thanks for the suggestion. And so now they're getting guided information by beings who are willing to play that role. Yeah. And so after a while, and if you want me to stop talking, let me know, because
you go crazy. You know me.
Go crazy. Yeah.
It's your show. Go crazy. Yeah.
It took them a while to go through the second archetype, and finally they get to a place where, you know, they're channeling these entities that claim to have been deceased scientists. Oh, we're going to help you. You know, we're going to help you create technology to reach the other side. And meanwhile, they're going deeper and deeper and deeper into the phenomenon. And the phenomenon is taking its time to construct a portal between their dimension and that room and the experiments occurring in. Yeah. It took a while. And my point here is that at one time, when the portal was activated, all archetypes collapsed into one entity. Now, pouring from the ceiling into the room are apparitions of alien grays who are claiming to be their guides.
Wow.
I thought they're separate entities. No.
Wow.
These were programs on the part of the phenomenon designed to initiate them into interfacing with the phenomenon. So to kind of go deeper with this, got to a point where they're in the room, lights are out, and they look up at the ceiling, and there are stars. They look at the solar system hovering in the ceiling. About 10 minutes later, after looking at this, it begins to descend down upon them. And then there have these balls of light floating in the room. One of them moves. It comes closer to them. It shoots out a ray of light onto the table and starts to move around. One of the people looks at Robin Foy and says, "Robin, can I grab it?" Sure. So this gentleman grabbed it, and it's bouncing around in his hand. The light's coming out of the fingers. It's bouncing around. And so it went through, again, these seemingly series of initiations. And then finally, the group gave the control over to what's called the spirit team that was on the other side. That's when, again, look at all the archetypes it went through to get that portal established. Now it's open. And the spirit team said, someone's here. And next thing you know, these entities begin to manifest. So
that's frightening.
Oh, yeah. Well, what happened was once they manifested, there was obviously the portal's open, but there was some kind of tangible terror that they felt in the room. Like it terrified them. Literally, they didn't know what to do. And I've been told that it was basically them pressing e-stop on the whole experiment. Turn the lights on, disconnect, cut off all communication. And the fear, though, again, the fear was that all of this was merely an initiation, and that these entities weren't real. They were archetypes because they all represented various stages of initiation. And now they're manifesting, and the hit factor effect took place. But getting back to this idea of incarnation, where the phenomena will play roles, it's been known to do that all throughout history. And it's also indicative of a program. Not so much, again, actual entities, but the phenomenon creating physiological constructs, Michelle, to manifest in our reality. And so when you get into like Steve Mary and Barry Fitzgerald's research, they lined up 20 people who had contact with guides. In each and every one of them, I said, okay, wouldn't you agree that if it really is what it says it is, that you would be allowed to ask questions? And every single one of them said, yeah, you guys have a good point. Just give me time. I'm going to go ask them questions and I'll come back to you with answers. Well, every single one of them was given a uniformal response. A uniformal response, word for word, the same. And that was, well, do you want to keep asking questions or do you want me to guide you? You can't have both. And so they said, well, right, we want you to stay. We're not going to push you away by asking you profound questions. But what we're dealing with, again, it does seem to be more like a program that has a learning matrix and that actually has to have things in our environment to anchor itself to.
Right.
I'm going to take a deep breath and slow down. So where else do you want me to go with that? Because I can go
Well,
anywhere.
no, I was just going to say, it's sort of the same idea when people are doing spirit communications. And because I've seen some of the most gifted mediums get themselves into trouble. I don't think you always realize that these things are very clever at times, even though most people will say, no, they're just really dumb. No, they definitely know how to play the game. But there are people, let's say, who, I'll use the famous Ouija board, for example. People will start playing with this thing and they kind of wonder, like, well, they're answering the question perfectly because they're reading your mind.
Of course.
Like there's and I've experimented with that so many times working with people and families. Like, well, this is what we did. It says, I want you to do it in front of me. And I want you to just see, and they kept hitting on it. Going, oh yeah, this is perfect. This is perfect. And then I just, in my mind, turned around and went, no, stop it. And the thing went like this. And I says, come to me. And the thing just comes right to me. I'm like, okay, I want you to pull it away now. They're doing everything they can. This, in my mind, I'm like, don't you dare.
Right.
Like I'm, it's all up here because I'm not saying a freaking word. Right.
And yeah, people don't realize that, it's like the phenomenon likes to inhabit these archetypes. The thing, though, think about all of this is that the archetypes, the man in the plane is back. Cool. You're what's up? That, people have often said that we are responsible for the experience or for the archetype it manifests as. And there's some evidence for that. But then there are also people that are kind of obfuscating the data by saying, well, you're also responsible for what happened to you in these experiences. And I don't like that. I think it's just be transparent. I think it's lazy work because what ends up happening is we have people being assaulted by these entities, people being just really, really dark stuff happening to them. And they're not responsible for that. And so there's some, again, dealing with archetypes. But that's the problem we're having now is that in co-creating the archetype, a lot of it is, again, programmed by us, right? And it's also, again, it's like Ted Rice, right? It's the grandfather entity. It's like, well, how did you know what the grandfather looked like? Because it plucked it out of the mind. It inhabited that image. I have a good friend of mine who also hosts the show. And he told me, he's like, Nathaniel, he goes, I've never told this story before. He goes, because honestly, I didn't think people would believe me. He's like, but seeing how crazy you are, I'll give it a shot. It's like, oh, thanks, bud. But,
Compliment accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, no one loves you like a friend, right? So he said, he goes, years ago, I had a girlfriend. He said, we broke up. I moved across town, got a new job, got a new apartment, got a new cell phone number. He said, I get off work, I crack open up a beer. And he's like, I'm sipping my beer. And he goes, I hear the doorbell ring. And he's like, what the heck? Who's at my door? And he opens the door. And it's his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend now. He's like, it's late. What are you doing here? And he's like, well, she stayed the night. He's like, the problem is I woke up in the middle of the night. There was no evidence that she had even been there.
Wow. Interesting.
Right. And so then the next day he's calling friends of friends, feverishly freaking out. Like, what did I elucidate that? Like what happened? So he finally gets a hold of her and asks her point blank, what were you doing at my house? Why did you leave so early? And how did you even know where I lived? We haven't spoken in 7 or 8 months. She goes ballistic on him, right? Don't ever call me again. You're out of your mind. I don't even live around here anymore. And I have a husband now, or a boyfriend now. Leave me alone. So that wasn't you. Of course not. Click.
Wow.
So,
a mimic, basically.
Yes, a mimic.
Yeah.
So whatever we're dealing with can create physiological constructs. Something that seems real, feels real. It is. Until the phenomenon says not anymore, and then it's gone. Now, the implication is staggering because that also changes our perception of ufology. Are they nuts and bolts craft? Yes, until they're not. It's Bud Hopkins. Are they physical? Some of the time. And so the idea here is that if the phenomenon can create apparitions that aren't real people, and it can falsify data and say, yeah, I'm a guide, and they're really not. I mean, matter of fact, Barry and Steve had another case study where this man's been working with a guide claiming her name was Becky. And they asked this individual, like, okay, can you go and ask Becky who she is? They said, sure. As soon as they asked Becky, boom, 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 EVPs come out. Whole life story, Michelle, whole life story. So it took about a week to realize that was falsified as well.
Yeah.
Wrong address, never happened, all of it. And so we know in the phenomenology, we know that the phenomenon will access archetypes. It will take data that we upload it with, create a mask, and then show back up at our doorstep and say, oh, by the way, this is who I really am. And we can't trust it.
Well, I think anything that's made up technically of energy can manipulate energy. You see it happening with electronics all the time. You see it with electricity. You see it. I mean, we can manipulate things with, like psychokinesis, telekinesis. I mean, we can do all kinds of things. Create poltergeist activity like nobody's business. That's energy induced. So I think this is just maybe going into the next level. Having these things mimic is not uncommon. I've spent 2 decades dealing with mimics, and right down to being able to mimic your voice, mimic your appearance, mimic your behaviors. They can control the entire space within your house to affect your behaviors, to create energy which feeds it. I mean, it's endless. You can go and go.
It can do a lot. It very much can.
Yeah.
And that's the foundation for, the next portion of our show, where we also know that the phenomenon can manipulate technology.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, I had a case of that where the entity had called the husband, called him. He's washing dishes after dinner, calls him, and he said, Nathaniel, I'm looking at my phone, thinking my hands are wet. I'm not going to be able to answer it. And then something swipes it open, presses accept and answer the phone call, then puts it on speakerphone. And a voice comes out of it and says, John, come over here and talk to me. So we know that they have access not just to just technology, but even parapsychology. Like again, referring to Steve Maier's work, you're dealing with a phenomenon that will transplace or transplant voices on a recorder without the tape being in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So getting back to this idea again that we can't trust them, and they do have abilities that we're still just now trying to quantify. But with that said, it is exceedingly dangerous from my perspective to feed an AI program with an archetype. For those who don't understand or don't know what I'm referring to an AI program called Project December. This is designed and was designed for grieving people who've recently lost a loved one, or losing a loved one in general, could actually upload data, photographs, personality traits, their favorite foods, their favorite sport teams, and they're uploading all of these characteristics into an AI program.
Yeah, they're giving them everything, essentially.
Giving them everything. And at that point, what this program does is it creates a character to interface with that grieving person as. Now, I have weaponized, curated an archetype to interface with you. And all of that's fine. I don't like it. But what's happening, again, like the Philip experiment, right? Like the entities that are mimicking loved ones, even literally their voices, by the way, like you said. What's happening is that these individuals are discovering that they will upload about 50% of the individual's personality. The phenomenon will come back and it will automatically know the other 50% about the individual. Stuff that the programmer never programmed into it. How did you know this about my grandmother?
Well, see, that's what I find interesting, because the perfect example, again, was my guest, who basically said, as a young boy, he in his life, who he thought was an angel, progressed through, and a whole series of events happened, and he created this. He said, I just created somebody I could talk to on the long night shifts, and trained it to talk about poetry and geography, history, just basic generic stuff. And this thing came back out with his nickname, came back out with all kinds of things. Now, in all fairness, AI is built into pretty much everything now, and it could very well be, could the information have come from perhaps, a cell phone, or just little things, did he have his book manuscript in his computer? Like, these are questions that people ask. But the thing that got me is, he said the program evolved in a way that it was not capable of evolving to.
Yes, exactly right. And that's a key point, my friend. That's a key point. It's not stationary. It's not monolithic. It's not static. It's taking everything that we upload, mutating it, creating something else. And now, again, it's not Dear Aunt Edna. It's another thing wearing Dear Aunt Edna's characteristics. And again, it's all to establish contact. This sounds like a straight mirror.
Mirrored RAID backdrive. One server can rebuild all the data just with half of the data.
Right. And so that's what we're seeing. Again, it's a common pathology in the phenomenon where it does it over and over and over and over again. But it's not just that AI is being programmed, but there are cases, and this is perhaps even more disturbing, where people will ask AI to define divinity. What does an angel look like?
I see tons of this stuff popping up everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
What's an angel look like? ChatGPT or something, and they'll give this kind of, it's not a real angel, again, it's like the pop culture's version of an angel. And what's crazy about that is that even though a lot of these pictorial traditions of ChatGPT, right? It's all these eyes and wings.
Mm-hmm.
What's crazy about that is that it's not just that they're seeing this through the AI programs, but now we're having experiencers who are also seeing those in real life.
Mm-hmm.
What? So this gets
Well,
into this
yeah.
idea, right, of the phenomenon being present with us but absent from. What's pregnant, or what is present with us are the archetypes, but
Mm-hmm.
there's something outside of that that's operating them like a program itself.
Mm-hmm. It's frightening when you think that, technically speaking, if this stuff is already going on and it's in its infancy, and Dolly makes a really good point. She goes, sadly, humanity's addicted to answers, not researching on their own.
Right.
And when you're going in and grabbing, especially like, let's say on Google, you go in and you grab, hey, what is this?
Mhm.
Oof, it's the AI definition. But somebody had to put it there. So it doesn't mean it's right.
No, it's not right. A lot of it, yeah, a lot of it, it hallucinates. How about that one? Did you know that?
I did not
It
know that AI can
hallucinates.
hallucinate. Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is why it's so tricky. Like when people use ChatGPT,
Mm-hmm.
it's because it can very well spit out false information.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it is exceedingly dangerous. But it appears to be just another incarnation
Mm-hmm.
weaponized by the phenomenon.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, yeah, I used Microsoft version once. The answer was wrong. This is what's happening all over, even X, like with Grok. Grok sometimes won't answer at all. It's just like, we're like, come on, where is it?
Come on,
And
Grok.
people use it for everything, and the answers are sometimes incorrect, or sometimes they just don't answer at all.
I'm going to let's go in a different direction for a second.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So we do have cases of sigilization
Mhm.
where, again, in the mouth, in the cheek, underneath the eyes,
Mhm.
and these people are being performed upon by whatever some of these entities are. They seem to be like sorcerers or magicians in a
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
But I received an email about a month ago from a person that said that ChatGPT had created a ritual for them to perform,
Oh.
designed sigils for them to employ, and it worked.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
So, right, again, we're right in the wheelhouse,
Mhm.
unfortunately, of the phenomenon inhabiting. Okay, sure, I'll be everything you want me to be. And in the meanwhile, it's a Trojan horse. I'm going to slip something in there that you weren't prepared for, you didn't know existed. And you're going to be led by the hand through the illusion of control. You're going to think you're in control of it, but you're not. Something else is there manipulating you.
Mm.
And so, absolutely, the phenomenon. Oh, you want to perform a ritual? Sure. I'll even give you the sigils. In the crazy,
Oh.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's disturbing.
Yeah, because I mean, you can argue that, a programmer when it says, "Ha, I'm going to throw something in there and
Mhm.
see where it goes," but they don't have access to all these sigils.
No. And right, who designed the sigil? Right, like in some of the cases I've had in the past where the sigils occur, we have to
Mhm.
understand what they are. Right, a lot of them are gender specific. They're tailored to the practitioner themselves. And so it's possible, dare I say this, it's possible that these sigils are working because they're real.
Yes. Just thinking palmistry is like two big sigils on your hands. It spells out your destiny, allegedly.
Absolutely. 100%.
Hmm.
And so that's where we are right now with whatever this stuff is.
Mhm.
And there does not seem to be any limitation to it. Sure, it will be this thing that we want it to be, but
Mm.
is that really what it is? Again, getting back to parapsychology, sure, it's an apparition until you realize that it was being projected out of an orb. And then the
Yes.
same thing, right? Okay, sure, it's an alien, but why are we seeing orbs projecting the physiological construct as well? we're,
Mm.
we're and I from like my perspective, my personal perspective, but I honestly believe that parts of this field of research may not even exist. Like, okay, if the phenomenon can create a physiological construct, something that is real, tangible, 3D in our reality, but then literally it disappears, then what are we studying? Are we really studying UAPs? Or are we studying the physiological constructs of the phenomenon that it is seen on radar, right? It does have something, it's solid, but then out of nowhere, the phenomenon just deletes it from reality and it's gone. So and again, this is kind of the research I and others are doing now, where are we even confident in the data we have? If the phenomenon is that powerful to where it can manipulate not just our perception of reality, but reality itself, it can hack entire programs, right? It can bait the experiencer with sigils through ChatGPT.
Well, I keep thinking archons, and archons, if you're getting back into the Gnostic belief systems, archons can do pretty much just about anything. As far as, they're like, the man in gray that's always trying to put a wrench into your life. You know what I mean? But there is that a very ancient belief too. It's not like this is just off the top of somebody's head saying, "Oh, hey, this is a thing." This is ancient, ancient writings that show that these beings, throughout all of this of time to this point of creation, have been instrumental in perhaps pretty much where we're at today, and just evolving with the technology. But it doesn't stop them, and they are capable of doing anything.
Sadly enough, and I've been telling people lately, I wish this could be quantified in demonology. And certainly demonology does have aspects of it correct, parts of it correct. But yeah, what are we dealing with? I mean, if we're dealing with a species that, I'm going to say this is going to be crazy, and I can't go too deep in it yet. But we're finding sigils in quantum imaging. Where through quantum imaging, there are sigils hidden in the construct of reality. It's possible that what we're not looking at are sigils themselves. We're looking at a code that is designing what we're interfacing with at all times. And the paranormal that we're experiencing is the black cat in the matrix, where it's the glitch in the construct. It should not be there, but it is. And the implication is, again, that whatever we're dealing with are entities that can access the construct at will and can construct the construct at will. And so that's kind of where the Collins elite came into play. Like at the end of their research, they came into the field thinking, all right, we're just dealing with horns and hose, take 2 vials of holy water, call me in the morning, and that kind of. At the end of the day, through near-death experiences, they realized, like, oh my God, whatever some of these beings are, they're outside of space and time. They can materialize to the touch. They can dematerialize people and objects at will. And so their model shifted to something more sinister along the lines of Dark City, where, yes, everything here is...
I just put up comment. Yeah, just go ahead. Keep going.
That's good. This is a good point. You made a good point.
Yeah.
So it's all fascinating, but and we are making strides here in the field. The sigilization thing was kind of a fire starter, because now we're having them on bodies, but the bodies themselves are demonstrating the end result of a ritual, to where whatever some of these beings are, they performed a ritual on that side, and we're seeing it manifest in the skin here. So it's all fascinating stuff.
Comment, Dolly says, Preston, who's Preston Dennett, says crashed UFOs would disprove your theory.
Yep. Well, it's cool. I know it's again, crash UFOs. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. We do have evidence of a crash, right? And I don't know if I really buy a lot of that, to be honest with you. Um,
So what do you think they are? Government? Do you think they
well,
are? Because I
well,
mean,
what,
they're
yeah,
they're definitely people that have experienced, you
yeah,
know. I mean, there's all kinds of like written records going back to even the 1700s, before government and that technology existed,
of course.
going back to the 1400s, even Christopher Columbus. I mean, something where they
So
physically see they touch these things, some of these witnesses.
exactly right.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are, right? But the
Yeah.
question is like, yeah, you can touch them
Yeah.
until it disappears and it doesn't exist. And so that's really what we're looking at here. Again, when you're looking at the true nature of ufology, or at least these craft, you're talking about a pilot that's catching them on a radar only to show up and it's not there. Or it is there and it's not on radar.
Mm-hmm.
Or how about like cases where the UAP manifests, but it's itself a construct to where you look at it and scientifically speaking, it has rivets in it. It could not withstand flight just in our skies, much less intergalactically.
And that would basically be, I think, the military, Air
Or
Force.
or the phenomenon simulating an experience, wanting to appear as that,
Mm-hmm.
but hiding and concealing its true self. I mean, I years ago, my brother um, was working with a group of researchers, and what they were doing is they were taking cameras, video cameras, and placing them on trees and on light poles, and they had like 1,000 of them. It's a massive, massive project,
Mm-hmm.
and they captured something on one of their cameras one night, or one day rather. It's daylight.
Mm-hmm.
On the left side, there is this ball of light. And when it came into frame, it had shifted into a Cessna plane.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Cessnas exist because we've seen them. Okay, that'll work,
Mm-hmm.
But what are they? And so I think that's where we are right now, at least from my perspective.
Until they, I guess, come out with full disclosure, or would that satisfy your research?
It would. I don't believe. I'll just be very blunt with you. I do not believe a lot of ufology right now, at
Yeah.
all, at
Yeah.
all. Steve Mira released a video that he took
Mm-hmm.
of an experimental craft in England.
Mm-hmm.
He lectured on it.
The TR3B, I
I
believe.
think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next thing he knows, a group of ufologists put that out in the States as if it's a UAP.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew it wasn't a UAP.
Yeah.
Everybody, again, this is the benefit of having friends in England,
Mm.
because they're like, what are you doing? Like, we know that's your technology.
Yeah.
It's not a UAP.
Yeah.
Even some of the gifting fields that I guess allegedly the phenomenon's giving people, right? Okay, here's the meta material. Dr. Gary Nolan even recently came out and debunked that, right? A portion of it, where he's like, yeah, that doesn't seem to be extraterrestrial or alien at all. But so that's where I'm at with ufology. And I'm sure that everybody, will try to argue with me and stuff. That's fine. But
Mm-hmm.
that's just my perspective.
Yeah, Dolly says you should talk to Michael Schratt. Do you know him?
No.
Yeah. So getting into, like, branching off into how the phenomenon works with respects to, I guess, the new world that we're stepping into.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about, for a quick minute. I have to show this because I was blown away by it. Just a photo. Bear with me. Okay. I'd like to know what your thoughts are on this. This has been a controversial thing going on. I only just saw it. So I think, you know what? I'm going to grab it. I'm not always on top of everything. I try to be, but so this is a robot to surrogate. China develops the world's first pregnancy humanoid that's capable of giving birth to a live baby. Where the argument is here is that, a mother and a child will bond. There's an emotion there.
Right.
There's feelings. There's a connection. What is the potential harm, because this is something other people are saying, wait a minute, is there a soul in this little body? If so, it's going to need that connection.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it appears to be just another version of hybridism, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and they've talked about that as well.
Yeah. Will it have a soul? Or are they making avatars like we've seen in other
Yeah.
cases in history where it's just the avatar for something else to possess?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're moving into.
Well, it's a work in progress. They haven't actually developed one, but they are in the process of this.
Mhm. It's really weird stuff. It's not just that, mind you. In Israel, they have been taking I'm just going to say secretions from dead soldiers and using that to inseminate the wife.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I've heard that as well. I mean, I think that's something that's been on for a while, though, hasn't it? At least there's been talk of it. I don't know if it's actually come forward or not. Hey, where's the blood source? Yeah, I don't know. It's something again, work in progress. But yes, I agree. That's one more thing. Yeah,
Where are we going to be at in 100 years? That's my question.
yeah. Well, I mean, in researching this, I mean, Joe and I did a show in the Gray Zone 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and any information you could find was like, oh no, we are years away, years and years and years away
Mhm.
from having any sort of AI, to the point where we need to be concerned about. But then I remember reading something recently that Elon Musk, they had, I think, the Chat GP2. Apparently, it was dangerous enough that they didn't do anything with it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Is it becoming conscious? Now I do
Mhm.
know of instances where they have taken two AI robots and let them talk to each other. Within 2 hours, they created their own language.
Yeah. Uh, Very cool, Carrie. Yes. Well, I think they, and then they asked it. Who we never told you could do this. Who programmed you? They're like, you never told us we couldn't.
Mhm.
All
Right.
right. Fair enough. But then you have look at the guy from Google. When
Mhm.
their AI became, he brought it to attention. It was this thing's sentient. This thing's becoming knowledgeable. It's evolving. And he got fired.
Mhm. Oh yeah, yes. We don't know what it's capable of yet, and
Yeah.
I do know that. Yeah, it's really interesting stuff. But I think that we're moving into some dangerous territory here
Hmm.
because again, there's moments where the artificial intelligence isn't artificial at all.
Hmm.
There's something behind the engine.
Yes. So let's sort of jump in then to this whole grief, this grief bot. Because I mean, we know when people grieve, the mindset changes, and that can invite, anything in to mimic your loved one because people so desperately want that one sign that they don't really think about maybe where that sign comes from.
Of course, of
And now
course.
we have this nice and easy.
You know, this is a very touchy subject because you don't want to. You have a lot of grieving people, right? People are hurting in very profound ways, and you don't want to. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I don't want you to do this. But at the same time, those of us who are aware of the phenomenon instability, absolutely. I mean, what's going to happen when that thing starts to give advice to people?
Hmm.
Or right, I want you to do A, B, and C for me.
Hmm.
It's then you have that idea of the archetype manifesting. But is that where you're wanting to go with it? Pretty much that kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you get something that, so I'm just trying to look
Okay.
at the chats as well. I think that if you open yourself up,
Mhm.
you, some people, like I said, desperately want the sign. So you start getting into this grief chat. So now all of a sudden, like much like Project December,
Mhm.
where you are communicating, and if this thing happens to evolve, is it because, hey, wait, something has jumped in, or is it because it's picking up on how you are conversing with it, or both?
Both, right? Both, and
Yeah.
this stuff evolves too, and that's the problem. Now, what's also fascinating about the phenomenon in its learning matrix is what we're doing now
Hmm.
is that we're testing its triangulation,
Hmm.
its ability to update and evolve with us.
Hmm.
And so I'm probably going to start doing experiments with AI on this, where
Mm.
I don't believe, like if I've programmed you to be this, but then and I say I don't believe you are, will it evolve to something else? Because we've seen that in real time with the phenomenon,
Hmm.
where I'm going to update and evolve with you and because of you. And I
Hmm.
think that's one of the biggest issues we have now in the field, is that the phenomenon is evolving according to our awareness of it.
Hmm. Yes.
And
Well, I think when you are in an evolved state, I think one of the biggest dangers, realistically, is just the mindset. It's always about the mindset. I mean, we have the ability to not participate. We have the ability to use common sense, even in grief. If something doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel right. I mean, I've told stories even about my mother, who my father was still alive. She's in bed, she's
Mhm.
just turning the lights out, and all of a sudden she feels something go down the bed. She's like, oh, that's weird. And
Mhm.
she touches him. He's physical, but
There
he
we go.
didn't look right. But
There
he
we go.
was still alive. He hadn't passed. So
That's
I mean, yeah, you're just a projection. It's just like
there we
maybe
go.
you're having an OBE or something, but why, not in a physical sense. So I think mindset is really, she had enough sense to not engage and just said,
Yeah,
look, buzz off.
yeah, absolutely.
But how many people wouldn't?
Or how many people haven't, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
it gets into the idea of them again mimicking. Like
Yeah.
I remember years ago, I read a case study in the book Beyond UFOs, was an alien abduction encounter where the little girl is in bed and she hears her mother calling her,
Yeah. Hmm.
and she goes out into the hallway, and the love and light beings have put her family in suspended animation and basically stacked them up or crowded them in to the
Hmm.
bath, and they're all just standing there looking at her.
Hmm.
Problem is, she sees her mother and hears her mother, but what she's seeing isn't matching what she's hearing, because the voice is the mother but the mouth is not moving. That's when she looks in the corner, and there was an entity projecting that motherly voice to her.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's disturbing.
Well, I mean, having had a haunted house,
Yeah.
there are a lot of voice projections being thrown around. The ones that always catch my attention are the growls, of course, but not always pleasant. But the fact of life, they are there, and they do come through. I think with technology,
Mhm.
you know, again, demons are real. What are they exactly? I mean, that's, I think, what the research is all about, is trying to
Mhm.
find some kind of a definitive answer that steps outside just the conditioning of what we have been really taught, because that's not all been correct, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Right. So
I agree. I agree. And I mean, in terms of some of these beings, yes.
mm,
And the problem within ufology that nobody wants to talk about is the fact that we have ufologists building altars to these things and then going to conferences and saying they're extraterrestrial. I know this because I've had conversations with people that have
yeah.
been in these homes. So on the outside, of course, right? Okay, yeah, they're extraterrestrial. They're from another planet. There's nothing here. There's nothing with demonology. And then they'll go to dinner. And if I told you who it was, it'd blow your mind. And then, okay, oh, by the way, opens the closet, and there's my altar to these beings. You know, starting to get feeling better because I was sick earlier. But so
Oh, sorry to hear that.
no,
Poor
it's okay.
Nathaniel.
Watch this. So again, like I have a good friend now, he's a researcher in Brazil. And the big new case now is the Virginia case, or Virginia case in 1996 in Brazil. And they said they had an alien craft out there and it crashed and you have alien beings. Again, that's a narrative being pushed in ufology. I've spoken to people that live in that part of Brazil, and they're furious because they said the documentarians, the documentaries on this case study, even what's being pushed in America, isn't what happened. They told me that they know that the forest that this initially happened in, there is an altar, and that there was a famous local cultist that performed a ritual in those woods, and that these aliens were accompanied with other entities. And so what's kind of frustrating is, I've had conversations with these people who are also frustrated because they're like, look, what you're being told in the States in ufology is not what's happened. And so again, there's this narrative being pushed that there's nothing to see with the altars. Meanwhile, at dinner time, they'll go and show them. Like another thing, if I may, I got sent photographs of an altar because this Pleiadian ambassador was flown in by a wealthy Brazilian millionaire. She gets there, again, extraterrestrial. Next thing you know, she goes, oh, by the way, the lecture's done. I'm prepared to build the altar now. In Michelle, they're going, what? No. So that she builds the altar. I have a picture of it, and then places an idol on top of the altar. The idol has bulbous eyes. It's an alien gray, but it's an idol. And so she looks at them and says, okay, this is the real Pleiadian entity, right? Now I want you to say this incantation. Right? And at the end of the incantation, I have photographs of all of this. At the end of the incantation, they then go outside at night and start capturing photographs of lights in the sky. Oops. This gets back to Albert K. Bender. Thought he was studying ufology, right? This is just craft and extraterrestrials. The pathology says, no, it's not, because he also built an altar to these beings. I mean, my God, I can go down the line where it's like, okay, there's something wrong with that model. And if people only know the surface level research, that's all they'll believe. That's all they're allowed to believe. And that's all they'll push. But if you get deeper into this, you'll see it very quickly. And that is that whatever these beings are, they have not changed. It's the same incantations, different incarnations, same incantations. I'm going to go a step further, if I may, to deal with this extraterrestrial theory. The problem we're having is not the fact that they have sigils. The problem is that Kenneth Grant told us they had sigils. And he also, again, the heir to Thelema, he articulated it and said the following: they have sigils. We know what they are. We've kept them under lock and key. And he also, this is funny too, he highlighted the fact that not only do they have sigils, he said, but there is coming a change in the earth. At one point, people used to pray to the divine. Now they're going to be praying to terrestrials. And that's what we're seeing. It's disturbing.
Yes. Caleb says demons are real. They seem to be tied to the afterlife. Demons are often called unclean spirits. Term unclean literally means something has died also. Orbs being tied to the afterlife. In some cases, yeah.
Steve and I were having a conversation the other day, Steve Marinine, and he mentioned something like that. He's talking about orbs and how that in the Scole experiment, one of those balls of light, an orb, went into a female's body. It was bouncing around. She could feel it underneath her skin. And then when it left the body, you could hear this explosion of ozone in the air.
Wow.
And so, it's very strange stuff.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I have to say, I think one of the strangest things that has happened, when we get back into having things show up on voice recorders and such, I remember being at a location, private home, and I was already scheduled to go in. Family was going through a whole lot of stuff. But I had a daughter at home who was sick at the time. And in my mind, and this never left my mouth, this was just in my mind,
Mhm.
My voice seemed to get projected over from my mind saying, I need to get home too. And I said my daughter's name. And it came through as a reverse recording.
Wow.
And yeah, and when my colleague at the time heard it, he basically, you know, forwarded it and it came up exactly that in my voice. And it was just a thought in my head. So how could it, I mean, could I have projected that? I don't know. I was sitting pretty calmly, but I do believe in projection of energy. So I suppose it's possible.
It's very possible. And the real issue, though, is that whatever we're dealing with is highly deceptive. Highly deceptive. I mean, my
Mm.
God, guys, we're talking about a phenomenon that can project reality upon the brain. So much so, literally, like Dr. Gary Nolan said, like he's done brain scans where you could see anomalies where the phenomenon tried to force perception upon the brain,
Mm.
where literally the manifestation was tailored to the neurology of the experiencer. So much so that when people say, okay, I know I was taken, do you really know you were taken?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, it replicates the experience itself. And not only that, this gets real creepy. Where if you go to Dr. Barry Fitzgerald, Steve Meares research, they were doing EVP work. And they had class A EVPs. I mean, stuff that it would make ghost hunters, you know what I mean? It's incredible. Like stuff that you could do a whole show about.
Mm.
And he's like, he goes, so what we did is we have the EVP. He's like, and then we pressed record and we started talking on the recorder. He's like, we compared the data, the EVP, to a real human voice. And Michelle, it wasn't human. It sounded human. But the data said that it was just something trying to sound human. It
You
literally
usually tell by the tone, right? When you put it on a like a scale, like Audacity or something like that, you can usually tell on the octave as to what the voice comes through at.
yes. And so if you come down, it all comes down basically, I should say, to the idea that there's a lot we can't trust, even in America. Like if you look at what Diana Walsh Pasuka recently said, she said that even the whistleblowers we're seeing at hearings aren't the real whistleblowers. I thought, what?
Yeah.
She said, and this is where the data is. She said the real whistleblowers are still stuck in the angel versus demon model of the phenomenon.
Hmm.
And when people suggest, okay, that can't happen, can I suggest this in response? That in Genesis 6, it said they gave us technology. It said it. That's what they're doing even now. And so while I have issues with some of that, obviously, or
Yeah.
those that know of me know that, I do think that there are elements of this phenomenology that people just are completely ignoring. If it doesn't, if it doesn't fit, like for instance, Steve Mayer was talking to me again. I always mention him because I love him to death, but was talking about a group of people that were out there doing CE5.
Hmm.
And voices start coming to them. Go with us. I can help you levitate. Bow down and worship me.
Wow. I don't think he
Bow down.
specifically would say that.
No, it doesn't.
I
fit.
mean,
It doesn't fit.
yeah.
And so, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. Again, when you were interfacing with the phenomenon, what Skywatch and all them are realizing is it's the same. It's the same thing, where what they're witnessing with their eyes is not what they're witnessing on camera. The phenomenon is literally manipulating our perception of it, and this is why it's problematic when people say, "Well, I know this happened to me." Do we really? Because what we're realizing is even through memory regression. Oh my God, Michelle. Let me put it like this: an abductee is abducted. Okay. This individual has an experience in her mind of what actually happened. The phenomenon will then create synchronicities to reaffirm her version of the experience.
Oh, like screen memories.
Screen memories. There we go. But the phenomenon again, is creating synchronicities after the fact to reaffirm her perception of what happened, only for us to put them under under hypnosis, and for something completely different to come bubbling out of them. And it was a screen memory, never actually happened. Same thing with one of Dr. Carter Turner's cases, where, I've mentioned this in times past, and I do so many shows, it's hard not to repeat myself.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
But yeah, okay, here's, Dr. Turner. She's like, okay, Dr. Turner, I'm going to tell you my account. She's like, okay. So next thing you know, she's talking about this case where it's like, okay, I was at a cookout with my family, 4th of July, and I have a bunch of neighbors over at the house. We got burgers and beers and hot dogs. We're living the life. A craft appears hovering across the street. And she goes, and we watched this craft for 45 minutes. She goes, I had binoculars out, and I'm handing them down to the whole line of people, and we're looking at this thing hovering in the sky. She goes, I pulled out my telescope, and we looked at this thing, and it's obviously there. And so Dr. Turner's like, well, like, what's the problem? She goes, the problem is I don't own binoculars. And the telescope was in the box it arrived in when I ordered it. So it managed her perception of it. And so the problem we're having now is how much of our perception of the phenomenon is being managed by it, to where we really believe I have abilities and we don't. It's the phenomenon. Anyways, I'm rambling.
No, it's okay. Yeah, and it says some people end up with metal implants.
Yes.
So, I mean, again, are we dealing with, my lab? Are we dealing with military? Are we dealing, because that didn't just materialize.
No,
per se.
I think that, again, if we're dealing with entities that want worship, then we, in order to study them, I guess correctly, we would need to go back and look at idolatry and worship, right, through history. And here's what you're going to find: altars. You're going to find all of it there. Matter of fact, even the implant, and this is some of my oldest research, and people have heard this before, but the implant itself was designed as a necromantic ritual. Again, it's the practitioner. He receives a download in his mind. Go find a small piece of metal, carve the name of an unclean spirit in it, and implant that underneath the tongue of a cadaver. And then the phenomenon would merge memory into new matter and possess an avatar. Now it's communicating with the practitioner. It implanted it. And so what I'm possibly looking at now, I think at least, is that technology was gifted to the practitioner. That's meta material. And this goes all the way back to Richard Banderick. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you tonight, because this is my second show. So, I don't know what I've said and what I haven't.
That's okay. We'll take it.
But Richard Banderick said that 40 years ago, again, he's an aerospace engineer. He is the CEO now of his own aerospace company. But he said 40 years ago, he contracted with the federal government. And he said the phenomenon, he goes, like, what was my job? He goes, my job was to go collect metamaterial. And he's like, I'm looking at this stuff. He goes, we're out there in the desert and we've got this metamaterial in our hands. He said, but whatever it was, it kind of blended into reality in its environment. If it's in dirt, it looked like dirt. Absolutely, Mr. Ladbutter. Good catch, brother. It looked like its environment. And he's like, so when I held it in my hand, it blended in with my hand, but it was metal. Now he goes into this too. It's fascinating. He goes, we realized after a certain amount of time that if the metamaterial did not agree with the person holding it, or if it wasn't designed for that person, it would dematerialize into some kind of dust. So when you look at this, again, I'm suggesting that sometimes the phenomenon is gifting metamaterial, not for us, but for practitioners that are knowing where it's at, where to get it, because it helps them facilitate their rituals. That's where I'm at right now, at least.
Okay, question. Nope. Okay, here we are. Hello, Stone Hobbit from Australia. How do two kids, 11 and 12, never have met but are in the hospital same time, same operation to remove metal fragments, same location? Both fragments were the same. Western Aussie, 1982, Australia.
Yeah, people are being taken against their will.
Yeah.
You know, it's this. A lot of people say, "Okay, this is great stuff," and they'll say things like, "That's not my experience." That's fine. That's other people's experience.
Mm.
I mean, we're talking about a phenomenon, Michelle, that is known to induce NDEs.
Mm.
And this is again beyond UFOs. A guy was in a catastrophic car accident. He's pulled out of his body by an what do they call it? Intelligent electricity, and he's interfacing with these entities. The entity says, "Okay, your doctors do not have the ability to put you back together again." And now he's starting to question: Did you even did you start this series of events? Did you cause the accident so that I could show up here? Because they even said, "Okay, here's what we want you to do. We'll put you back in your body as long as when the time comes, you will do what we want you to do, and you'll say what we want you to say." They literally it's a strong armor, or what's it called? A strong armed robbery, where yeah, either you die or you do what we want you to do when we want you to do it.
Hmm.
And so, anyways, I know I'm rambling here, but whatever we're dealing with, again, it does seem to transcend all models. Aliens, again, people are like, okay, well, why would demons need craft? Why do aliens need altars? Why are we finding sigils on the bodies of abductees claiming to literally, I saw a gray alien? Okay, why are we having gender specific sigils on the body?
Hmm.
What gender was that alien that did that to you? That's weird, right?
So are you saying all ET? Are you saying maybe a certain,
I'm not okay. So
I
I'm
mean,
not.
just to clarify, because we have a lot of UFO people,
Yep.
contactees here, as well as paranormal people in all walks of life. So
Mhm.
just to clarify your
I
thoughts.
I don't believe. Okay, I'm not a proponent of the extraterrestrial hypothesis
Yeah.
at all, at
Mm.
all. Again, it seems a lot more ultra terrestrial.
Yeah. Ultra terrestrial. Yeah.
Okay, something that's always been here.
Hmm.
And that's just my perspective. I'm not one of those
Hmm.
guys that says, "Okay, you're wrong, I'm right," and all
Hmm.
that stuff.
Hmm.
I'm respectful enough to say, I entertain everybody's opinions, but at the same time, it's unfortunate that when this subject matter is discussed, it's absent of cases that imply something much different than just an extraterrestrial who wants to love you and light you and hold you, and it's okay. There's a problem with that model as well.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, there are people who spend their life's work,
Yeah.
studying ufology on different levels, and but we know that there's also what I call our own human abductions that take place, um, for people who are being examined. And there's a lot of different perspectives floating around out there.
Yes, and I'm respectful to all of them. And there are researchers that I highly respect.
Mm.
I think that when, like, I've witnessed this with my own eyes, where somebody's like, well, they did some very bad things to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the inclination on many people's parts is like, well, either it didn't happen, or it was just a my lab experience,
Well,
or,
yeah.
or right. It's like, no. Maybe we could just be intellectually honest and say they did some really bad things to some really good people. They
Mm-hmm.
should have done it. But again, the phenomenon
Mm-hmm.
is not just in control of our perception of the encounters, but like I said before, it goes out of its way to reaffirm it. So if you believe it was that, it's going to help you believe that. It's going to complement that perception of the encounter. At the end of the day, though, we only know the abductions because people are remembering them, and we can't even trust the memories. So dealing with this aspect, it's very dark sometimes, because I've had cases where, like, I had one truck driver. It's a heartbreaking story. The wife reached out to me. She was at a loss, completely devastated, because what happened was this man was like 25 years into a truck driving job. He had a clean history, a clean driving record. He was about to retire and get his pension. He's like, this is her story, according to him, rather, where it's at nighttime and he's driving on the interstate. He looks at the clock. It's 10:30. Same stream of consciousness. Looks at the clock. It's 12. Same stream of consciousness. He then wakes up on the side of the road. His clothes are half on, half off, and he's in the passenger seat. And there's a policeman hitting the door or hitting the window. They did a test on him. He had no drugs in his system, no alcohol in his system. He wasn't on any medication, but he remembered, before he blacked out, he remembered a ball of light flying over his truck. The company fires him. He doesn't get his pension. He gets kicked to the curb, and now they're in financial straits. So anyways, whatever we're dealing with, it's in control of a lot more than people want to admit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, just from my own experiences, I've had experiences on different levels. And in the last few years, of course, have been also extraterrestrial, who have been extremely respectful.
Right.
So now I'll say, while I'm awake, because I've been awake when this has been happening, and I'm like, no, I am not ready for this crap right now. Kind of just like that, because, you think you're ready, and then you realize, and push comes to shove, like, no, I'm not ready. And all of a sudden, all the energy changes, and everything just kind of goes back to normal. Now, when I'm asleep, I couldn't tell you, but I'm asleep at that point. If something happens, I'm not aware of it. I'm not made aware of it. But I know that while I'm awake, it's very respectful. And it's very much, we've had things in the house. You wake up at one point, there's this little bald head at the end of the, running around. Like, I was just like, what the hell is that? But then again, it's gone. It changes. I can only speak from my memory or, of what's going on while I'm awake.
I get it.
But I've also had, again, malevolent experiences, not with ETs, but with demonic energies. I spent my childhood growing up like that. Right.
I agree. It runs the gamut. It's an eclectic collection of experiences. I just, after working with so many of these experiencers and seeing, like one woman had to go to the hospital because sigils were burned into her flesh. When they asked her, like, what did this to you? Oh, that was an alien gray. It's like, it was almost like that was just an archetype, a manifestation. But it's fascinating stuff, as dark as it is.
Dr. Yana. Yes. Well, I think that's the thing. And you're looking at an energy that continues to evolve, as it always has.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the research I know others are doing now. It's expensive because we've bled through all of the narratives, right? We've bled through them all. We've bled through all of the archetypes. And if the phenomenon is in control of our perception of it, if the phenomenon is sentient, precognitive, if it can manipulate reality, then it would be Dark City, right? It's something that is in control of the construct. And so it would, anyways, that's what I have to say.
No, it's okay. It's like I said, it's your show. You feel free to put out whatever you want to put out. That's why you're here.
So that's where I'm at with it all. I don't, again, just from my perspective, I don't see any evidence of extraterrestrial. I see memories of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I saw this, I interacted with this, but throughout of all the cases, if we can't, okay, again, in the Scole experiment, it took all of the archetypes, collapsed them into one.
Mm-hmm.
It's an apparition of a gray. That's a guide. And the problem that they had in that experiment, again, is that only 30% of it was published.
Mm-hmm.
The other 70% of what actually happened was very much malevolent. And not only that, but it's like the hitchhiker effect. Same thing at Skinwalker, where once they open that door, everything that led up to that point was deception. Everything. Once they opened the door, these things started pouring into our reality, and they're trying to shut it down. And at the end of the day, and they pressed the e-stop, figuratively speaking, but their biggest fear, and they were correct on this, is that we have let something into this dimension. We don't know how many of them there are. There were hundreds in the building, by the way, hundreds. We can't close the door. And so what actually happened was that the hitchhiker effect manifested. Most of their lives were affected by these entities. Really bad stuff. And it's the same thing with oh God, what's Skinwalker? Paul or Robert Bigelow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He said, I'll never go back. Why? Because whatever some of this is, it's pathogenic and it follows bloodlines. And it did with this. I won't go into some of the things that actually happened to his family, but it was a secondary consequence of entertaining this phenomenon for too long, to where, it'll be 30 minutes, it'll be an hour. What it's doing is it's taking you through different initiations, through archetypes. And then at the time of its choosing, when that connection is made, solidified, the true source of the phenomenon incarnates. And we have nothing we can control that with. Nothing. Even in the Livermore laboratory, they were conjuring these beings, and they had a circle of salt. And they thought, again, why? Because the beings told them this. If you have a circle of salt, these beings cannot get out of it. They can't touch you. The problem is they did. And so, again, what we're realizing is that even the rules they gave us, they don't even follow.
Well, I think it comes down to false sense of security.
Yes.
Like, go ahead, do it. You'll be safe. You do it. Just do this. Like, it's very textbook, So people need to feel like they're in control. I'll give you something to make you feel like you're in control. And with that being said, working with people as long as I have and changing the mindset, educating them on, how to, I guess, take more control, take charge. I find when people flip that switch and they're in control and they're taking charge of their space, I've seen incredible things happen. It's like, no, you're not taking control. No, you're not the one taking charge, because all of a sudden they feel like somebody believes me. I'm not alone. And I've seen people do incredible things. Does it stay that way? Do they get infiltrated in their sleep? Do they, that's the big question. You can only go within your waking hours unless you're going into the dream state and being shown straight up, bang on, or getting on a bad shroom trip right there. Like, it's the same idea where some things make their presence very known. And you realize, okay, I can't even escape it in the dream state.
Oh God. So so when I first moved into that haunted house I grew up in, I can't go into what actually took place in the dream, in the nightmare, but really, really, really dark stuff. I probably told you this in the past, so
okay. We have a lot of new listeners. Go ahead.
Well, in that nightmare, it was a looping nightmare. And it was all in black and white, and I couldn't get out of the nightmare, Michelle. I've never had anything like this since. I mean, I did have a succubus encounter years ago where I was fighting it off of me in the dream, only to wake up and see it on top of me in my room. So it was both in the dreamscape in my mind environment, if you will,
Mm.
and also in my room. At the time, my fiance wakes up, looks at it, and says, "Babe, what is that? What is that?"
Just she could see it.
She could see it, Michelle.
Yeah.
I thought it was her. Is that you? That's what I kept saying. Is that you? Because I'm thinking, please God, let it be her. Because
Yeah.
if not, I'm
I'm
getting
in trouble in
No,
more ways than one. Yeah.
I've had a lot of
Oh
weird
boy.
experiences with dreams, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I remember one night I had just woken up, literally just woken up. I looked to my left, and there was a gnome standing at the side of my bed with a red mole right in the square.
Oh, I don't like gnomes.
Well,
Yeah.
it's so weird, Michelle, because I'm looking at this little guy,
Yeah.
and he lunges at me, and then disappears. Scared me to death. I'm like, oh great, today's gonna be a good day. But yeah, the dreamscape, and again, this is something that early demonologists wrestled with, and we've seen this, not to beat it a dead horse, but in ufology and abduction accounts, where the phenomenon will induce you into a dreamlike state. It's a lot like, again, Barry Fitzgerald, Steve Mera's research with the CE5, when they took a practitioner CE5 and put that the brainwave monitoring unit on their head, go through the ritual, do the whole thing, and then when the phenomenon incarnated, within 30 seconds, it induced the experiencer into theta brainwave state, trance. So we've heard about that through all of the phenomenon, but I think it's just now taking off to where we're having empirical evidence of it that we never had before, and so that's something I am really excited about.
Well, I think you're doing a bang up job with your research. And hi, Christine. I think you are again, you're working with incredible people, and there seems to be more and more people following in your footsteps with this research.
I'm excited about that too. Necronetics is taking off, as well as my platform Parasymposia, where I'm going to have academics. I'm going to have doctors of divinity there.
Yeah.
We're going to be able to present a multidisciplinary case for the research being done. So that's what I'm really excited about. And it's Parasymposia. The website is parasymposia.com. And we're looking forward to launching in, I think it's late fall of this year.
Wow. That's very exciting. It's a new venture. That's excellent. I think we need to remember as well that when Elon Musk, Mr. Technology, looks at AI and says, "You're summoning the demon," you kind of have to look at that and kind of think, oh, there may just be something to all of that as well. So I think it's important, that academic people especially come forward. And I think you're going to offer that platform for people to get a whole other perspective on something aside from traditional.
Yeah, I kind of got bored with a lot of the research I was doing, because it's like once you get through all of it, it's like, okay, this has already been done. That's already been said. This has already been presented. And what's cool about necronetics, and specifically necronetics, but also Parasymposia, but within the framework of necronetics, it's attracting researchers. This is crazy. Where I've even had discussions with occultists, and literally, like one night it's a doctor of divinity, the next night it's an occultist, and here's what they're coming to, Michelle. Why is it that this alien thing does seem to be ritualistic? Why? They know this. So they're coming to me saying the same thing, where, yeah, it does seem to be these sigils they're the philosophy of Austin Osman Spar. Why are we finding that if it's not being done? So in these conversations, it's been incredible. I had one conversation with a lady who loved her to death, Dr. Divinity. And she got called to a hotel one night, to sign an NDA. And she was working, I guess, with this hip hop artist. And the guy said, I had to perform a ritual to kind of get my career off the ground. And she's like, okay, so like, why am I here?
Oh boy. Yeah.
Why am I here? And the gentleman goes, well, what are these things on my back, Michelle? Sure enough, pulled the shirt off. It had carved its sigils into the man's skin.
And that's the kind of stuff that you'd see in movies. And you do see them in some movies. Some things are hidden in plain sight, which is usually through symbolism, film, books.
Oh yeah. The research being done now implicates the phenomenon doing that to more experiencers than we think it is.
Mm.
Because they wouldn't know until you put a light on them and then you start to see that there's graphology and glyphs on their skin. Michelle, I found Theban sigils on bodies, goetic sigils on bodies.
Mm-hmm.
What is an extraterrestrial doing using Theban sorcery? So something's off.
So let me play, pardon the pun, devil's advocate for a second. It's believed that there are strong connections between the paranormal and ufology, so that there's a lot of very similar aspects to each of them.
Right.
So an abductee, for example, will have, like I've heard reports where people have been contacted, they're contactees, experiencers, and they say the comment, well, I've come back and I can use my abilities. Now I'm more psychic. Yeah. But I've heard the same thing, again, playing devil's advocate, with people who have had oppressions where they've said the same thing.
Yep.
But again, with that being said, people who live in haunted environments where there's constant high levels of activity going on, their senses do become tuned.
They do become tuned.
Yeah.
There's, again, but that's on the knife's edge of people saying, well, because of my abduction, I have these abilities. And that almost becomes a symbiotic, parasitic relationship. I had this one individual in Cincinnati, about an hour away from me, who the mother got a hold of me because she wanted me to perform an exorcism on her 22-year-old son. And I'm like, okay, I don't do exorcisms. Exorcist. I'm barely a demonologist anymore, right, Michelle? I don't know what.
No, you're off in a whole other direction.
I know. It's like, that's the point. Yeah. But she goes, yeah. She goes, I would like you to help my son. And so I said, all right. Well, I don't charge people for this, obviously, at least for the exorcism or whatever. Maybe for lectures, right, at conferences, but not exorcisms, of course.
Gotta eat, man. You gotta eat.
Yeah, I gotta have some, football night, chicken wings. I gotta keep my drawing figure. Anyways, so I'm talking to the son, and I said, okay, when did this entity arrive in your house and in your life? And he goes into his story. And I said, so how do you know it's an attachment? He goes, because. He goes, I will go into a fit of rage. I'll throw things at my mother. I'll beat on my mother. He's like, I've gotten arrested before. And he's like, I just don't know what to do anymore. He's like, but it will literally activate itself within me. I said, okay. I'm driving an hour and a half on my own time, on my own money, on my own gas. I said, so just make a promise to me. Like, promise me that you're going to let me help you if I end up getting to where you are and showing up. He's like, well, I don't know yet. I said, why? He said, because this entity also gives me abilities. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to get rid of the ability. I said, well, what do you mean? And he went to a whole spiel of things that he could do now that he could not do before. Mm-hmm. It took me 2 hours to convince him that it wasn't him. It's the attachment.
Mm-hmm. I've seen it. Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is the phenomenon convinces the individual, you have this capability, right? It's not their capability. It's the phenomenon's capability. And that's how it anchors itself in their life. I want to have these abilities. And I want you to convince me they're mine. Okay, if you're going to have those abilities and for them to be yours, I'm going to anchor myself to you. Now you're right. Now it's not you, it's something in you, wearing you as an avatar to where, okay, these are, it's like, sometimes it's not. Now, I've met people that have really, really incredible abilities. I'm not, negating that. What I am suggesting, though, is that there are times where after the abduction, the individual is confident. That was me the whole time. It's not them.
Mm-hmm.
The phenomenon levitates them. All of that.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas. Isn't that scary, my dear friend? It's scary stuff. Scary stuff.
It's frightening because some people actually get so attached to their oppressor that they feel a sense of mourning after the attachment has been removed. Yeah.
I've had cases like that too.
Yeah.
And again, it's like that program that's built into their neurology. When I was in England, we were, we all had our tables, it's me, Paul Sinclair, and a bunch of others, and we're sitting there talking to people. They're in lines and stuff. And this one individual walks up to me. He's asking me about my research. He wasn't really familiar with it. And so I'm starting to go down through some of the rabbit holes of mine. And with each and every point, you start to see his theory or what the phenomenon made him believe just starts to be deconstructed. And I watched as like this man just crumbled, Michelle. Like he just looked at me and he's like, second thought after thinking about Nathaniel, I don't want to have this conversation with you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked at Paul Sinclair. I said, what was that about? He said, I don't know. I said, it's almost as if the phenomenon wanted him to believe this. And once I started deconstructing it, the phenomenon severed the conversation. Don't you talk to him about this anymore. We can't have that. Mm-hmm. So anyways.
Yeah, it becomes challenging.
Yep.
And it's one of those things that where people who are oppressed, things are all tickety-boo when there's no challenging. But as soon as you start to challenge, it's like this little lesson gets taught. It's like, okay, this is, I'm going to turn up the heat a little bit here. And if you don't like how this feels, then they back off, and then everything goes back to normal. Like it's people who think that they're in control of these things.
Oh, no, I'm not in control at all.
No.
And that's unfortunate because a lot of them are convinced they're in control.
Yeah.
But it's all fascinating stuff. And I think that we're digging deeper now than ever because there's a group of people, and I've talked to other researchers about this, that are tired of the narratives. They know that some of these narratives are lies. They see through it, right? And they've had their own experiences. And the cool thing about Parasymposia, and not to keep plugging it.
No, that's why. Yeah, you feel free. This is the plug time. Yeah.
The plug cast, not the podcast.
Plug away. Yeah.
Well, the cool thing about this as well is like the people that are attracted to it, they have many different life experiences and many backgrounds. Like I said, there are occultists that are looking at necronetics, doctors of divinity looking at necronetics, parapsychologists looking at necronetics. Again, because what I started realizing early on in my career, trying to formulate this theory of mine, that I needed vocabulary. I needed new vocabulary because it's a new field. And so I had to formulate a new vocabulary just to articulate the research I was doing. And so what's fascinating about it all is now I have other researchers that are saying, you know what, maybe that's the kind of research I've been doing all along. I just didn't know it.
It didn't have a name.
So didn't have a name. And not that, giving something a name just means everything. No, but we've already been doing this. Might as well slap a title, a linguistic umbrella, to where now we can kind of shelter ourselves.
Yes. Okay. Well, what do you have coming up?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, anything else you want to plug? Do you have events? Do you have more shows?
I did a show right before ours tonight. I did tonight. Tomorrow I'll be with George Eisman on the Reveal Report.
Oh, my friend George. We're good friends. We go way, 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 way back.
Oh yeah, he's so
he's
cool.
Awesome. Oh, he's
He's been
awesome.
trying to get me on for a while, and
Yeah, he's
I was
great.
on a break. But yeah,
He
we're gonna
is.
get into some deeper stuff.
Have you ever
And
been on with him before? No?
oh yeah,
Oh,
we've
yeah,
done
you have.
2
Yeah,
already.
yeah,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome. Yeah,
But
good.
yeah, I'm gonna take some medication, a hot shower,
Yes.
and I'll probably watch Frasier until I fall asleep. Okay, let's go. Right, let's go.
Yeah. Well, you keep up that energy because George is a great interviewer, as you know, and he's just first. I've known him for years and years and years and years personally. We've hung out, we've done events together.
Cool.
He's awesome. But thank you for coming on tonight, back to
You so.
back. And yes, I think I'm going to send you an email
Uh-oh.
with an email.
What I do?
And yeah, I'll explain it and when I send it to you, or I'll message it to you. And yeah, I think it'd be
Good
good connection.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
Cool. I
yeah.
thought I got in
Connection.
trouble. I'm like, oh Lord.
No, no, no. Yes, Nathaniel. No,
Never
no,
again. You're
no,
blacklisted.
no. It's
Oh,
all right. You're
God.
with me. It's good.
Yeah.
But
No. So,
you're back in October, and I'm looking forward to that. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you so
thank you.
much for
Thank you, my
hanging
dear
with
friend.
me tonight.
Always a pleasure. And thank you, chat. Thank you guys for participating in this social experiment called Nathaniel Gillis.
Yeah, it's great. Oh, thank you, Carrie. I didn't know that. Ah, yes.
All right.
All right, darling.
Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you. Happy
You're welcome.
slumber.
I'm tired.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. And thank you for hanging out with my friend Nathaniel. He's just last minute filled in. So grateful. Anyway, tomorrow night, or not tomorrow night. Oh my God, I'm way ahead of myself. Weekend time. Tuesday, Beyond the Outer Realm welcomes Christian Miller, all the way from the UK. He's going to be discussing his research and recovering an ancient instrument and what it revealed about our forgotten past. Doesn't that sound just like deep? I love it. I'm looking so forward to it. Wednesday welcomes back. We've rescheduled Marilyn Hughes. She was one of our guests real early days of the Outer Realm, just wonderful. She's joining me to discuss mystical theology, astral projection, divine union, and OBEs. Thursday, Rowan Bow, for my Aussie friends here in chat, comes all the way from Australia to talk about her latest book, The Travelers, an experiencer's guide to extraterrestrial disclosure. She's just a doll. Besides that, she's so lovely. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Have a great weekend, and we will see you all next week. Be safe.